I never thought a piece of paper could change a life, but the document I held in my hand that morning did exactly that. My name is Evan Cole, and a year ago, my brother Marcus sold my shares in our family startup without asking me. Back then, the company was barely surviving, and my few shares seemed worthless. I had left town to finish my degree while Marcus stayed behind to run the business with our father's blessing. I trusted him completely. When I found out he'd sold my shares, he said it was for the good of the company. I didn't argue. He was my brother, and I believed him. Life went on. I took an ordinary job, paid my rent, and tried not to think about what could have been. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. Last week, I opened a financial news alert and nearly dropped my phone. The company, our company, had gone public. Its valuation? $4.27 billion. My shares, the ones Marcus sold behind my back, were now worth over $427 million. My chest tightened as I stared at the screen, memories flooding back. The long nights we'd spent coding in the garage, the arguments about whether the app would ever succeed, the promises we made to stay equals no matter what. And now, I was nothing but a footnote in the story of my own creation. At first, I didn't know what to feel. Anger, disbelief, betrayal. It all mixed into a heavy, burning silence that settled inside me. I didn't want revenge. Not at first. I just wanted to understand why. When I called Marcus, his assistant answered, saying he was too busy for calls. Too busy for his brother. That's when the fire inside me began to rise. I decided to go home. The next morning, I drove 6 hours back to the city I once called home. The skyline looked the same, but everything else had changed. Billboards displayed our company's logo, the one Marcus and I had sketched on a napkin 5 years ago. It was strange seeing something that had started in our basement now lighting up an entire building. When I reached the office, the receptionist barely recognized me. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked. "Tell him his brother's here," I replied. A few minutes later Marcus appeared, wearing a tailored suit and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Evan," he said, pretending surprise. "Didn't expect to see you." I held his gaze. "I bet you didn't." He motioned me to his office, a sleek room with glass walls and city views. "You've done well," I said quietly. "We've done well," he corrected, still trying to sound brotherly. I placed my phone on his desk, showing the news article. "You sold my shares without permission. Now they're worth nearly $500 million. Explain." His smile faltered for the first time. He leaned back in his chair. "You weren't contributing anymore. The company needed investors, and you were gone. I made a decision." I clenched my fists. "A decision that wasn't yours to make." He shrugged, pretending calm, but I could see the nervous twitch in his jaw. "You would have done the same." "No," I said, my voice firm. "I would have called. I would have asked." The silence between us grew heavier. "It's not like you're poor," he added coldly. "You got paid for those shares." I laughed bitterly. $10,000, Marcus. You turned my life's work into pocket change." His expression hardened. "That's business." "No," I said, standing. "That's betrayal." I turned to leave, but something inside me whispered not to walk away yet. I wanted justice, not through anger, but through truth. Over the next few weeks, I met with old contacts, engineers, and former team members who had also been pushed out by Marcus's ruthless decisions. Together, we built a quiet alliance. While he chased publicity and investors, I worked in silence, gathering evidence of how he had misused funds and manipulated early contracts. By the time the annual shareholder meeting arrived, I was ready. When I entered the grand hall, hundreds of people were seated, cameras flashing. Marcus was on stage, giving his victory speech. I waited until the applause faded before stepping forward. "You forgot to mention your co-founder," I said, my voice echoing through the microphone. The crowd turned. Marcus froze. "Evan," he stammered. "This isn't. You sold my shares illegally," I said calmly, holding up the documents. And you've been hiding financial discrepancies for over a year. Gasps filled the room. The board members began whispering. Within minutes, the meeting erupted into chaos. Security moved toward me, but one of the board members stopped them. "Let him speak," she said. I handed her the files I'd collected, emails, transactions, signatures. By the end of the meeting, Marcus's empire began to crumble. The investigation that followed stripped him of his position, and the board offered me a settlement that finally recognized my role in building the company. I didn't get the full $427 million, but what I gained was worth more: peace, respect, and justice. A few months later, I stood outside our old garage, the one where it all began. The door creaked as I stepped inside. Dust covered the shelves, but the faint outline of our company's first logo was still visible on the wall. I smiled, not in bitterness, but in gratitude. I had lost millions, yes, but I had regained something far more valuable: myself. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone else, it's about rebuilding who you were before they broke you. And that was the richest return I could have ever asked for.